Greetings and welcome to the Embrace the Mud podcast. Today we're going to be exploring a crucial topic that touches the depths of many relationships, and that is resolving resentment. What exactly is resentment? What's the root cause of it? And how do we overcome it so that we can keep our peace even during times where we're not totally satisfied in our relationships? That's what we're discussing today, so let's dive in. You are listening to the Embrace the Mud podcast, where we discuss all things related to healthy, joyful, and life-giving relationships. Why focus on relationships? Because the quality of our intimate partnerships and close connections influences our health, happiness, and longevity more than anything else in our lives. Relationships matter a lot, so together, let's jump into the mud, aka our messy relationships, pull some weeds, plant some seeds, and create an enriching environment where strong relationships can take root. I am your grateful host, Dara Posner. I am a relational disaster working toward relational mastery. I am also a positive psychology coach, a relational mindset coach, a blogger, and now a podcaster. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Embrace the Mud podcast, where we discuss all things related to healthy, joyful, life-giving relationships. If you are a fan of this podcast, please subscribe, follow, like, review, and share. Your engagement in this way is crucial to the success of the podcast, and I appreciate you taking just a few seconds to support my mission, which is to help people like you flourish in life and love. Resentment often wears the cloak of bitterness and anger, a result of feeling that our needs are unmet or that efforts in the relationship are one-sided. However, beneath the surface, resentment is closely tied to envy, and it emerges when boundaries are repeatedly crossed, standards are ignored, and emotional needs are neglected. The truth is, the hurt partner becomes frustrated not just with their significant other, but more significantly with their own inability to say no, to stand up against disappointments, and to prevent neglect or mistreatment through establishing boundaries and clearly communicating standards and needs. The frustration is an internal struggle. There's a pretty popular saying that says resentment is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. It's not that we're being poisoned by someone else. When it comes to resentment, we're poisoning ourselves. To heal resentment, it's crucial to shift the focus from blaming our partner to taking ownership of our own needs and desires. Living with resentment is like trapping yourself in a cycle of emotional discomfort and pain. And to break free, you must confront the discomfort of being honest with yourself. Imagine the discomfort of repeatedly saying yes out of obligation or fear of upsetting someone. The discomfort of enduring disappointments and allowing oneself to be neglected. This is where resentment festers, and the only way out is through self-responsibility. Let's explore 3 essential tips for working through our resentments. Firstly, we have to be brutally honest with ourselves about what it is that we need and what we desire. Secondly, we have to accept our role in the dynamics that contribute to our own unhappiness. And lastly, we have to craft a plan. We have to get specific about how we're going to guide ourselves from resentment into a state of peace. It might feel uncomfortable and even scary to navigate this path of self-ownership, but consider the alternative, living shackled by resentment. Taking responsibility for your needs is an act of self-compassion. And don't get me wrong, I personally can attest to how difficult this actually is. Because if we're not willing to be self-responsible, as I many times have not been in the past, we are completely disempowered and are just there waiting for someone else to make changes, to love us differently, to meet our needs exactly the way that we want them to be met. And if they don't, we remain in pain. What we have to do is take our power back, own our needs and desires, and decide what we're going to do if they're not fulfilled, and then actually do that. So as we conclude our exploration of healing resentment, remember that the journey begins with turning inward, acknowledging your needs, and taking courageous steps towards boldly expressing what it is that you need, clarifying your standards, and setting and enforcing boundaries. Resentment might have taken root, but you hold the power to cultivate an internal garden of peace. That is all I have for you today here on the Embrace the Mud podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. May your path toward healing be filled with self-love and the freedom that comes with taking charge of your own emotional landscape. If you realize that this is a struggle for you and you can use support with this, I absolutely encourage you to reach out and get some help, because resentment is really just such a brutal experience. And if it's a pattern for you, you might need a little bit of guidance to help yourself navigate this really tricky terrain. I'll be back very soon here with another episode for you. And until then, as always, I invite you to remember that you are wired for love and connection. You are capable of love and connection, and you are worthy of love and connection. I'll see you soon.